Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the Senstennial Podcast, where the Ottawa Senators are a playoff team.
How many seasons has it been of this show?
8,000.
We recorded our first episode, I believe, in like February 2020,
Yeah,
February 2020.
yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head how many episodes we've released since then.
I I
Probably
I
like
do remember we did
150,
100th episode,
maybe, yeah,
so we
probably
can, yeah,
somewhere close to 200 at this point.
yeah,
All of them without a single playoff game being played by
yeah,
this team that we cover.
yeah. I want to say, like, first and foremost, it doesn't feel right to do this without Matt, but because the Ottawa Senators clinched last night on a loss, so weird, but they still clinched. Um, we had to do this.
Mhm.
We had to
We
talk.
did. And you and Matt
Um,
did your live stream yesterday as well.
yeah, I did promptly get off after 5-2, and there was 3 minutes left because I was tilted. I
Yeah.
was just too tired.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally
yeah,
fair.
I mean, so Bennett being the guy on the podcast that actually didn't think the Sens would make the playoffs.
It's true. I did think
Yeah,
that.
how, like, where do you think, what was the biggest catalyst for us getting here?
For me, the answer is clear, and it's goaltending. That's by far the biggest swing in last year to this year. I'm gonna pull up Hockey Reference here because I was just looking at it when I was writing the blog post earlier
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Subtle plug to check out the Senstennial blog post. Um, but Our goals against per game is down to 279 on the season. Last year it was like 3.4. Uh, and we have a league leading 10 shutouts.
yeah.
Last season, how many shutouts did we have?
Not that many.
Uh, Last season we had two. So we have quintupled the shutouts, and we have brought our goals against per game down by almost 1.0. So to me, it's without a question, goaltending has been the biggest difference maker between
Yeah.
last season and this season, and the reason why the Sens went from being not close to the playoffs last year to qualified with a few games to spare this season.
Yeah, and I also think you speak to goaltending, but Ottawa currently ranks 11th in the league in expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5 this year.
Mhm.
That is a drastic step up from last year. And their record when Travis Hamonic is not in the lineup is significantly better than it is when he is in the lineup.
Yeah.
It's just night and day, right? It looks like a whole new defense core when he's not out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And I mean, he's had a slightly more limited role this season compared to last season. I think he's still obviously played a couple dozen more games than your average Senators fan would like, but there's been enough skill spread throughout the rest of the lineup that his impact hasn't been as noticeable.
Yeah.
And by impact, I mean his negative impact. He doesn't have positive impacts.
Yeah, he doesn't. And I mean, he did have that 2-point game against the Habs, and we still ended up losing. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But
Mhm.
I just look at the way this team has put together really good pieces. I mean, we've spoke about it so many times about the Dylan Cousins trade and the Fabian Zetterlund trade. Those are pieces you can actually build around.
Mhm.
And in the past, there have been snap decisions bringing in guys that maybe were question marks, whether they would stick around, or a square peg in a circular hole. Like, it didn't make sense. But Steve Stais did a presser today saying he kind of evaluated the roster from last year and wanted to tweak from there. And starting with Linus Allmark, and as you said, like, goaltending's been the absolute best best thing and best change from this season. But I also want to get your thoughts on. I just want to get your thoughts on the forward core as well.
Hmm.
Um, that the scoring has gone down, but what have you seen as a result of that?
Yeah, the scoring has gone down. And on the one hand, caveman monkey brain says number high equal good, and you're like, oh, Tim Stutzle scored 90 points a couple seasons ago. It's like, he should do that every year, right? And it's like, I think that we all hope and expect him to get back there. But would you rather win more games, or would you rather have a lot of guys padding their stats? And I think that in previous years we might have seen more of the latter. But this year we're winning games, and we're winning a lot of close games. You've seen it in the last couple of weeks. It's been a lot of 2-1 or 3-2 kind of wins that the Sens have been putting together. And they all count for the same. It doesn't matter whether you win 5-2 or 2-1. A win is still 2 points on the board. And I think a lot of this has to go a lot of this stems from the coaching of Travis Green. He spoke a lot when he first took over the team about wanting to get his forwards to play a 200-foot game. Everyone knows the story now of how he flew to Germany to chat with Tim Stutzle after taking the mantle and emphasizing that very thing to him. And I think you've seen a lot of guys' offensive totals drop a little this year, but the overall team performance has been so much better that I think it's hard to really complain. And hey, I mean, this is still Green's first year as a coach here in Ottawa. It's possible that as players adapt more to his system, they'll find ways to pad the stats a little bit more while still playing a responsible defensive game. But remember in seasons past, and you saw, and I mean, Tkachuk and Stutzle, much as they are the heart of this team, they were certainly not immune from this. You'd see them cheating for offense a lot in the defensive zone, like kind of hanging around the blue line, waiting for a puck to get coughed up so that it gets streaked down the other end. I haven't seen that as much happening this year, and I'm sure that that's the influence of the new coaching staff, and it seems to be bearing results because, our offense has dropped a little bit, but our goals against has dropped a lot.
Yeah, I look at what you're saying, especially we're in the first year of Travis Green. We're in the first year of a new system. I would say Brady's defense has gotten quite a bit better. I would say Tim Stutzle's defense has gotten quite a bit better, and Drake Batherson's defense has gotten quite a bit better. Those are, your crucial guys. You need them to be performing, and you need them to be performing as leaders, and leaders play a complete game. Now, Tim Stutzle can go, okay, well, now I kind of know how to play defense as well as playing offense, and his totals are going down, but I think he's going to kind of figure it out. He's 23. Um, and this team is hitting the the cusp of what they're able to achieve. I mean, Nathan MacKinnon was a solid contributor before he kind of exploded. Um,
Yeah,
how many superstars really are superstars right from the hop? Like it's not
yeah.
that many guys. There's an adjustment period. And those guys don't go through coaches the way the Ottawa Senators have.
Yeah, all of that is 100% true. And I should also add, I mean, we're talking as if like Timmy's got like 50 points.
I
He
know.
has 72 points in 78 games. So he is like, a couple vintage Timmy, I didn't play that well, but I got 3 points tonight games away from being a point per game guy,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, like, we're obviously his goal total is down a little. Um, compared to the 35 he put up a few years ago. But again, it's like he's always been a pass first guy, not necessarily a shoot first guy, despite having a very good shot. So again, it's like he has all of the tools, and it's just a question of having everything click at the same time, having the offense click, having the defense click, and just thinking of the game coming together all at once. And you're absolutely right that, only the true freaks of nature, like your Crosbys, your Ovechkins, your Connor McDavids, walk into the league and just run it from day one.
Yeah.
You mentioned many people consider Nathan McKinnon to be the second or third best player in the league and one of the most dominant players of his generation, which is completely true.
Yeah.
But you're correct. He didn't start to become the Nathan McKinnon that we know and fear until, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He played 4 or 5 seasons of learning the ropes, putting up good offensive numbers, showing the player that he could be, but not quite having everything click all at the same time.
Yeah.
And then by the time he hit, I don't know how old he was, 25, 26 years old, it's like a flip switch and he just became a monster.
Yeah.
And, that's I don't want to put too much pressure on Timmy. I mean, he is going to be one of the faces of this franchise going forward. But that's kind of what Sens fans want to see out of him. Maybe not the exact same style of play as Nathan McKinnon because they're very different players, but they want to see him put it all together at once and then do it season after season. And that's what we want out of him.
Yeah. I think this playoffs, it's going to be really interesting because now you have guys who haven't gotten a taste of it, but there are guys who every analyst in the league is saying, "Oh man, wait till they get there." And Brady Tkachuk, number one. Some people are saying Tim Stutzle is going to go there, but I got to say, I think Jake Sanderson is going to be a monster in the playoffs.
Yeah, Jake Sanderson has certainly had a breakout season. I think you didn't have to tell Senators fans how good he was.
Yeah.
We all saw it, but this is, I think, maybe the first year where other teams are sitting up and taking notice of what Sanderson can do. He leads the team's defensemen in terms of points. He's, fourth on the team in general for points. He's set new career highs for goals and assists and points. And he's doing it all while seamlessly transitioning to the team's number one defenseman, taking that job over from Shabbat, being the number one power play guy. And he has not looked out of place at all. We're still seeing him make smart defensive plays many nights, asterisks here, nights where he's not paired with Travis Hamonic.
Yeah.
When him and Zuber together, we know how effective they are. And since the 4 Nations, when he kind of got that late call up and came in and impressed in the couple games he got to play, Sanderson has been lights out. He had a 3-game goal streak at one point, and he's rounding into form at the perfect time for the Senators, who are hoping that, the Jake Sanderson that we see in the playoffs is 2025 Jake Sanderson and not fall 2024 Jake Sanderson, who again was not terrible, but wasn't at his best.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, Julian McKenzie for The Athletic a month ago or so wrote an interesting piece about Jake Sanderson working with one of like the defenseman whisperers in the world of kind of like NHL coaching, and he got some tips and pointers from this guy, and it's helped improve his game a little bit. And it just shows the drive and determination of someone like Sanderson to, a lot of the guys have big egos, and maybe they don't like hearing that they're not top shit. But Sanderson wasn't happy with how his game was progressing, and didn't just stick with whatever the coaches were telling him here. He sought second opinions just to see how much more he could push himself. And I think he could be, if he's dialed in at the start of the playoffs, I think he's gonna turn some more heads.
Yeah, and right now, as the standings are set currently, we're facing the Leafs. How do we feel about that?
I'll tell you what, I would rather face the Leafs than Tampa.
Yeah,
or Florida. And I mean, this is shaping up to be, famous last words of, I'd rather face the Leafs, and then we get swept for nothing or something. But I truly think that I don't fear the Leafs in the way that I fear a team like Florida or Tampa. And may I remind Sens fans that we did beat all three of these teams within the last fortnight, and we swept the season series against the Leafs. And the last time that we did that heading into a round one matchup, it was Boston in 2017. And it was a series where the Sens were the underdogs. Everyone
Yeah.
was saying Boston, this was Boston, you know, close to the height of their powers, and everyone's saying, "Oh, Boston's going to win this," or they know how to play playoff hockey and stuff, ignoring the fact that the Sens had their number all year long
Yeah.
and had it in the playoffs and won in 6 games. Um, I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going to happen with the Leafs, but I think Ottawa has shown a capacity to beat the Leafs uh, often in the last few seasons and this season in each of their encounters, and so I don't fear them. I think that they have holes at goaltending. I think that they're not super healthy. Matthews seems to be probably like working through something injury wise. Uh, Tavares looks revitalized, and Marner's been hot all year. So they certainly have some major offensive weapons, as we all know. Nylander, he really has that dog in him when it comes to
Yeah.
playoff time. But I certainly don't think that they're unbeatable. I don't think Tampa or Florida are unbeatable either, but I think they have way better goaltending, both of those teams. They're deeper teams. And so I would rather take the Battle of Ontario over either of the Florida teams.
Yeah. I I
And just
I
pray to
have
God that the Habs or someone else, manage to knock out Florida or Tampa and that it doesn't become our problem.
yeah. I kind of hope that uh we get the Leafs and we get to kind of take the monkey off the back of the Battle of Ontario playoffs from
Mm.
old,
Yeah.
that we just kept losing.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, the Sens are going into this as the underdogs, and they
Yeah.
know that. Any matchup they go into, they're going to be the underdogs.
Yeah.
So they just need to know that they just got to be hungrier.
Mhm.
And I I genuinely believe, and I saw it in the Leafs subreddit. It was funny. Like, people were like, "Do not sleep on Ottawa.
Mhm.
Everybody is wanting Ottawa. Do not do that." And
Yeah.
one guy was like, "You know, I'm not completely scared of Ottawa, but I'm terrified of the idea of Brady Tkachuk in the playoffs.
Mhm.
I could see him the first game setting a playoff record for hits.
Yeah.
Just first
Yeah.
shift, five
Ab
five hits, bull into China chop type stuff."
yeah, absolutely. And I should note as well, I mean, I completely understand why the team and the organization are already kind of like claiming the underdog label, because they want to manage expectations
Yeah,
and they want to like ease pressure on this young team entering the postseason for the first time. Florida have 4 points on us,
yeah,
i.e., 2 wins.
yeah,
Tampa have three. I mean, like the Suns might be like an underdog, kind of like mathematically speaking, but like there are not huge gaps between these
yeah.
teams in
As
their
of right
regular
now,
seasons.
mathematically underdog. But
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Things could flip like that.
And
Um,
I know that Florida aren't healthy right now. And they probably will be by the start of the playoffs. But yeah, I mean the Senators are not very far behind these teams in the standings, and I really think that the all the Atlantic matchups could be a toss up. The Atlantic was a much stronger division than the Metro this year. The Atlantic's going to take both wildcard spots by the looks of it,
yeah.
barring catastrophe for Montreal, which I mean, inshallah, catastrophe for Montreal,
Yeah.
but it seems unlikely at this point. They're probably going to make it. Um, so yeah, I mean, the Atlantic is just a really tough division, and the Senators were uh had to play really hard to grab one of those wild card spots. But there's not a huge gap between any of these teams. They've been taking points off each other all year.
Yeah, and for a spell, the Sens had wild card three a couple months back, and I remember when the Sens fell out of the wild card race, and I believe it was either right before the Four Nations or just after.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I was feeling tense
I
around
was
that
very
time.
tense. Very
Yeah,
tense.
everybody's been talking about clinching, one more game to clinch. I've been clinching, brothers.
Yeah.
It has not been easy. Being a Senators podcast, waiting for this hopes and dreams. Kyle Bukauskas came on this podcast and said, "You guys are not making the playoffs," and that's tough. So when we fell out of that playoff race, just for I think it was 2 games,
Mm-hmm.
and then they rattle off those 7 or the 6, just having that happen, um, that's incredible. You want to see that, and I feel like this Ottawa Senators team is much better at responding at adversity. And I think, you spoke to the goaltending, we've spoken about defense, and we've spoken about the forwards, but the sum of the parts, uh, as a whole, is what drives this Ottawa Senators team. And it would be nice if they made some noise.
Yeah, it would be awesome to see. I mean, I think that Sens fans will take this as a win in and of itself this season. And I don't think we're going to see too many people wringing their hands if the team gets bounced in the first round. Um, but I truly do think that based on the state of their play this season so far, the Ottawa could take any of the teams in round one. And, round two, round three, maybe it gets a little trickier. I mean, like, but I don't think any of the teams that we played were like totally outclassing us this year. I mean, Washington have the best record in the league. Uh, and we gave them a really good game every time. We
Yeah.
won a couple of them, they won one or two of them, but we looked good against Washington in pretty much every game. We swept the Leafs this year. We beat Florida on opening day. We beat them again this past weekend. Uh, Tampa, we beat at least once. So, yeah, I don't think any of these teams are just going to roll us over. It'll just be a question of if some of the Senators get a little caught up in the moment of playing in the postseason for the first time. I think that's more likely to lead to our undoing than it just getting completely like stat checked by any of these teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree. You want to make sure that the professionalism and maturity is coming out, as opposed to making decisions that they probably wouldn't do regularly and deviating from Travis Green's system. It would be nice if this power play slump kind of disappeared and was a good thing in the playoffs. Um, it hasn't been very good lately. And obviously we've already talked about Tim Stutzle, but I feel like he's one of those guys that can and will hit another level in the playoffs. And I think now that Zetterland has finally scored, I think Tim Stutzle is going to be shooting a lot more.
Mhm.
I just feel like he was trying to feed him whatever puck he could.
Right.
And now that the monkey's off Zetterland's back, I think Travis Green should maybe pull Tim's side and say, "Hey, start shooting the puck more. You're really good at it." So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all want to see Tim shoot the puck more. I mean, if
yeah,
there's one hole that you can poke in his game offensively, he's an elite passer. He shows a lot of creativity with the puck. He is really good at carrying the puck into the zone. He's got great hands. You just wish that sometimes he'd let go of the puck a little bit earlier. Like he tends to kind of like do his circuits
yeah,
around the offensive zone. Uh and if he doesn't see, like a beautiful kind of like perfect pass to lay out to someone, just shoot it.
yeah,
He's got a great wrist shot,
yeah,
and he should trust it a little more. But
yeah,
I'm sure that every coach in the building is telling him that based on Timmy's interviews, because he always mentions it's something the staff are telling him to work on.
Of course it is. But, there's always going to be something, right? So,
Yeah.
on that note, Bennett, any final thoughts before we call this first Senstennial Podcast episode being a playoff team?
Wow. It's been a long road, not
Yeah.
just for us on this show, but for Senators fans in general. Um, there's been a lot of hiccups and uh controversies and just shenanigans along the way, uh, which we don't need to relitigate here. Sens fans will know what we're referring to. There's been missed opportunities and reaches in the draft and big swings on guys that didn't pan out and off ice problems and the long running sale of the team and all of that stuff that led us to this moment of finally bringing it back into the playoffs. And take these last 2, 3 games of the season and just enjoy them. The hardest part is done. Now you just get to look forward to what's to come. And I know that I didn't call this team to make the playoffs at the start of the season. Um, to be fair, I think I did that before Olmark resigned, and really, uh, I was really skeptical about not knowing anything about
Yeah,
the
you
guy.
had
Really,
Sens trauma.
yeah, I had sense
Yeah.
trauma, and
Yeah.
not knowing anything about Linus and the kind of guy he is before he joined the team, I sort of assumed that he would be kind of mercenary and wouldn't want to just commit out of the gate, but he did, and that I think really set the tone for how this season went. And a lot of things that needed to go right have gone right, and maybe that won't be the case every year, but it happened this year. And my advice to all of you guys listening is to enjoy it, because you know, uh, last season was a wash, and the season before that, and the season before that. Who knows about next season? But if you're one of the 16 teams that takes the ice in mid-April, you always have a chance.
Yep. Yep. Any team can win in the playoffs, no matter positioning. And just relitigating that point of just enjoy it. Uh, it it's kind of really cool. I almost got chills while I was giving that the introduction because we've been doing this for so long
Yeah.
with no, I don't know, no carrot at the end. Like we've just been, all
Yeah.
right, let's bring on Will Scout to talk about the draft. Let's bring on so and so to talk about the draft. And fuck, it feels good to not have to talk about the draft.
Yeah.
It feels really good.
Yeah, it does.
So, on that note, Sens fans, thank you so much for tuning in to a historic episode of the Senstennial Podcast. Because, Brig, we're sure as hell happy to be here, and we're going to be attempting. Actually, no, not attempting. We're going to be recording after every single game of the postseason to ensure you guys have every opinion possible from your favorite Sens podcasters and content creators. So stay tuned for that. But most importantly, go Sens go.
Go Sens go, baby. Enjoy the ride from here on out.